All right, let's talk about a few wide receivers that we are addicted to drafting. So first, Jaden Reed. I
Me
get it.
too.
The Packers are wicked crowded at wide receiver. I mean, especially if Christian Watson stays healthy. They've got Wicks, they've got Dobbs, they've got a lot of options. But I think it can use Jaden Reed in several different ways. I've talked to some people who say that he's going to be utilized in a prominent role in that offense. If you look at his numbers in the second half of last year, he was a league winner from a fantasy perspective. And I mean, ESPN's got him at 98.2, that ADP. That I mean, geez, that's a wide receiver three, floor four flex type of guy. Like, yes, give me all the Jaden Reed I can get. I want
Hmm.
assets in that Packers offense. I mean, we talk about taking a shot on Davion Wicks late. That's smart. Taking a shot on Luke Musgrave late. That's smart. Uh, I mean, if Watson could stay healthy, who knows? After, we remember his rookie year where all he did was score touchdowns. And last year, all he did was miss time because he was injured. But I just really like Reed a lot. And then Lad McConkey. I don't know. I just want to have a guy named Lad on my team, I guess. I have no idea. But I would not be shocked if he leads the Chargers in targets this upcoming season. Why? No Keenan Allen, no Mike Williams. And I just feel like he is going to end up being the number one option for Justin Herbert when the Chargers throw the football. Right now, Joshua Palmer is going to be one of the perimeter receivers in terms of the starters. And then the other one, they're not sure. I mean, Brendan Rice has actually been getting burned as a starting
Yeah.
perimeter receiver, and they've been moving McConkey inside into the slot. McConkey can kind of play inside and outside. And I ultimately think, and I mean, like, listen, they're tight ends position and no great shakes. I mean, no offense to Hayden Hurst, but how many great seasons has he had in the league after coming out of college and being a first round pick of the Ravens? So
Yep.
I just think McConkey's going to end up getting a lot of targets. There's a lot of targets available, and McConkey's another guy. Like it's not like this guy is going like super early in drafts. Like ESPN's got him, and again, I have mentioned this. ESPN has drunk ADP when it comes to some
Hmm.
people. 120 for Lad McConkey. That's insane. 120. So by comparison, and we like to go to our pals over at the NFFC. He's at 89. 89. If we have learned anything, folks, from the last few years, it's that rookie wide receivers can and will come in and make an
Yep.
impact.
Yep.
And that was not always the case. I mean, look at Calvin Johnson's rookie year. Not great. You can go back at some of the greatest wide receivers of all time. They weren't really good in their rookie year. That doesn't happen now. Guys come out of college, they're playing in pro style offenses, they get inserted into the offense in a prominent role, and boom, the numbers explode.
Yep. That's why I have a lot of Marvin Harrison. And
Oh,
partially
I dig
too,
him too. I dig him too.
because of the things that we've said about the guys in the second round. Like I've said over, this has been a theme of the offseason for me, is that second round group of wide receivers is not one that I feel particularly strongly about. I have questions about almost all of them. So I'm going to plant my flag.
Come
Holy,
on, Rhodes.
okay. It was nice being with you all. I am now
I
retiring
like
from
that. You
communications.
almost went into an Italian accent there. I kind of like that. Good. Do that again. I
I
almost
don't even
went
know.
there again, folks. Thank you very much for listening to Fantasy Dirt. No, you almost did
Marvin
it.
Harrison,
You see how she ignores me?
there's, yes, there's a question, right? Like this was a very good wide receiver group that came out in the draft. The top three are all very, very, very good. If you look at some of the other high end wide receivers and how they've done immediately in the NFL, I think I'm just guessing that Marvin Harrison at the start of the second round, somewhere in there, if I'm able to grab that, then I think that there's probably the upside for him to maybe be a top five wide receiver by the end of the year. And I don't think that he'll be much lower than where I'm drafting him. So I feel pretty comfortable with Marvin Harrison. I have a lot of him as a clear wide receiver one in that
Mhm.
Cardinals offense with a quarterback who can get him the ball. And I think will be an ascending offense. The Cardinals, I think, are going to sneak up on people this year, particularly on the offensive side of the ball. There's a lot of
Davion,
fantasy weapons that I
yeah,
like in there. I feel
love
like
it.
Marvin
Yeah.
kind of brings it all together, and Kingsbury not being there helps
Mhm.
too.
And I think yeah, one player though, like and I'm not saying he's going to be a fantasy asset, but Zay Jones is a really good wide receiver. He could be there. Well, they've got Dortch, they've got Zay, they've got Michael Wilson,
Michael
they've got
Wilson.
Harrison, they've got
Yeah.
right, they've got Trey. Uh,
Yep.
they could be fun to watch. They could be very fantasy relevant.
The other wide receiver, and you mentioned Jaden Reed. I am with you. I'm drafting him sometimes. If I'm drafting him, I'm not drafting this next guy, but this next guy is the guy that I'm usually drafting, and that is Davion Wicks. That is my
Right.
Packers receiver. And like you said, part of the problem with Jaden Reed, or the thing that you feel like you need to say after you talk him up, is there's so many wide receivers there that are all kind of like, none have emerged as a true wide receiver one. The target shares out of this world. I think that opens the door for any of them to emerge as that guy. And I think Davion Wicks's talent profile is really, really impressive. So I think this year, if he takes that step forward in the offense, that he is a guy who has the potential to be that wide receiver one. And if you can get him where he's going, like if that story emerges as the truth and you have drafted him in round 12 or 13, at various points of the offseason, you could have drafted him in round 14 too. Like, this is a guy who you're grabbing late. So if it doesn't pan out and we're wrong about that, then okay, fine, get somebody on waivers and drop him. Although that feels scary to me because that offense, I think, is going to be so good. But anyway, his success rate versus man and press, 72%. That's very good. That's much higher than, that's like what you're looking for. Somebody that has over 70% tells you that they're a really, really good wide receiver. And so he's already checked that box. I think that his progression is one that I want to track this year. And I think that the potential is really good in an offense that I believe in. I also have a lot very late, Ja'Lynn Polk, because I think that this is, again, late. He is a guy who has an opportunity in an offense that's devoid of obvious top weapons. It's a dart throw that I think could pay off if he doesn't suck. And if the offense doesn't suck, which is entirely possible, he's a guy who's already worked his way into the starting rotation there. According to new reports this week, he's a guy in college that displayed a lot of versatility. So if the Patriots have the wherewithal to take advantage of that, and we've already mentioned some instances of, like the Bears not using a lot of 11 personnel. Sometimes they don't necessarily do what you're expecting them to do with what you think that they have. But if the Patriots do, he is a guy that you can move around a lot. And I think that is a good sign in today's offenses. Mostly an outside guy, but he lined up in the slot a lot in college, in the backfield a little bit. And so I think that he's a guy, again, late in drafts, you're looking for somebody who maybe could be a wide receiver one. And then you're getting a lot more fantasy production out of their draft slot.